What is going on, everybody? Alex here from the Football Guys, here to talk about 3 players who will destroy ADP in fantasy football this year. This is another one of our YouTube short series where we talk about guys that we really love or don't love in fantasy football. So with that being said, let's dive in. 3 players that we are talking about today that I think will destroy ADP. And that starts with Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams broke a tackle last year on 31% of his carries last year, which was the highest rate from a running back since 2006 when PFF started. That is a 16-year sample size now, and he has the highest rate of broken tackles of any player in a season. Oh, and he was a rookie last year while doing this. In his only game with 20 touches last year, he put up 29.8 fantasy points when Melvin Gordon was out, and the Broncos proceeded to drop Melvin Gordon's salary by 69%, and that is significant because they have no reason to play him. Before, they were paying him a lot more money. They were paying him over $8 million a year to do this, and now he's barely getting paid, almost not even $2 million at this point. So I think that someone like Melvin Gordon is not going to play as much of a big role as we would expect last year, especially when Melvin Gordon is now going to be a year older, heading towards 29 years old now. And that is not really that great for fantasy. And Javonte Williams is too talented to be off the field. We've already seen beat reporters say that this might not even be a 1A, 1B situation like we saw last year. It's going to be the Javonte Williams show because he's simply too talented to take off the field, and he is a guy that I'm very excited about for this year. Next guy that I think could destroy the ADP this year is Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a rookie, albeit on a small sample size, posted the 3rd highest fantasy points per dropback of any player since 2011. The only players that have ever had a higher fantasy points per dropback were Lamar Jackson and Taysom Hill in a small sample size. But Lamar Jackson owns 3 of the top 4 seasons of all time. Other players on this top 10 list include Cam Newton, Robert Griffin III, all players that had phenomenal seasons at some point, and Trey Lance is among that company. And beyond that, Trey Lance is there because of his legs. Did you know that 92% of quarterbacks to get 125 or more rush attempts have finished in the top 10 of fantasy football? 92% of those quarterbacks. Lance paced for 175 rush attempts last year. So if his pace drops by 50 rush attempts next year, he would still figuratively have a 92% chance of being a top 10 quarterback. But also on top of that, think about these other quarterbacks. What weapons do they have? Well, they probably weren't as good as Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. That is as good as it gets for weapons. Trey Lance is already posting one of the highest fantasy points per dropbacks of all time, and he's in a historical place in terms of rushing QBs, where as long as he hits a certain number, he has a very likely chance of finishing inside the top 10. Right now, in expert consensus rankings, ADP, Trey Lance is going outside the top 10 right now, and I think that Trey Lance is being so undervalued in fantasy football. And the final player that we're talking about today is Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore finished 9th in route run win rate as a rookie. He also posted top 30% numbers of all time in beating man, press, and zone coverage once again as a rookie. And we saw him do this in college. He set the Power 5 record for most yards from scrimmage per game during his final college season, and he continued this dominance in the NFL, where from week 6 until he got hurt for the rest of the season in week 14, he was the wide receiver 5 in fantasy football in points per game. And he did this while running the 76th most routes, a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy points per game, while being 76th in routes run. He was insanely efficient. He's only going to get better going into his second year. Zach Wilson should only get better. The sky is the limit for Elijah Moore. He has a very bright future ahead. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the Football Guys channel. We have new YouTube shorts coming out each and every single day, and a lot of great content from a lot of great people. So that being said, please enjoy the rest of your day, and a lot of great Football Guys content coming very, very soon.